Let's have some fun with LinkedIn data, shall we? So on LinkedIn, they don't give you all of the data that you really want through the API, and the graphs are not quite good enough for a data geek like me. So I'm going to show you how to get that data out of LinkedIn and put together a graph that shows you how you're trending in terms of your engagement on your profile. First thing to do is go to your profile. Now they keep things fairly hidden, but you go to your profile. This is mine. Down here we've got analytics, so I can go, let's have a look at post impressions. So what I want is to grab the longest time period that I can, so I'll change this to 365. And probably we'll just have a look at impressions to begin with, and this export button up here is what you want. So that's downloaded an Excel file. So what I'm going to do is then go into Google Sheets. So we can just do sheets.new. Sheets.new. That will make a new Google spreadsheet, and I'm just going to import that file into my Google Sheet. So here we go. Import data, replace spreadsheet. Yeah, we'll just take what this is going to give us. So this, usually you can request a CSV. This one's going to download an Excel file. And the Excel file is going to give us multiple tabs. So we get engagement and demographics. Now that might be interesting or it might not, but what we're mostly interested in here is this list of impressions and engagements broken down by day. So what we're going to, so this is not particularly useful and in itself. I mean, it's kind of interesting, I suppose, to see on these days when we had these kind of peaks, but ultimately it's not super interesting in this form. But this data structure is exactly what we need in order to do the analysis that we want to do. So all we have to do here is make a selection here and then go insert pivot table. So let's make a new sheet. And in rows, we're going to put the date. And so you can see here it's got every single date. Now that's not any better than what was on the previous page, but if we right click here or control click, if you're on a Mac without a mouse, we can go, oh, no we can't. Okay, here's a gotcha. So this date looks like a date, but it is in fact, the spreadsheet doesn't know that it is a date. So we just have to select that and go into here and change that to a date. So now when we click it, it opens up as a date. That's how we know that it's a date, and it also will right align it. That, by the way, is a useful trick in itself. You should basically just never use the formatting functions in the spreadsheet if you can help it. So I always clear the formatting like this, and the reason for that is if the contents of the cell go to the left, it thinks it's a string, in other words, just a word. And when it goes to the right, it thinks it's a number or a date or something structured. So when people center or left or right align on top of that, it actually just makes it all a bit more confusing. So now that we've done that there, we can go back to our pivot table and we can go create pivot table group, because this knows that that is a date. So let's go to year month. So that's just going to give us all the dates by month and year. Now, is it sorting them in the correct order? It does look that way, doesn't it? So it starts in 2021, November, December, January, February. Okay, fine. So then what we want to do is we want to add the impressions as a value here. So we can go impressions. Cool. So now we've got a list of the impressions by month. And that then means all we have to do here is select this data here and go insert chart. And there we go. So that is now our LinkedIn engagements by month. We can do whatever we want on this. So maybe we might want to, I always like smooth, and perhaps we might want to, in the series, perhaps we might want to show what the total was per month. or maybe we don't really care about that. But that's kind of helpful to see, right? So there's a big change between September and October when I started posting more. And what would probably be interesting to have in here is also the number of engagements. So let's just go back and add that, because impressions are one thing, but are people actually relating to it is another. And perhaps we want to see what the engagement rate is like. In other words, what percentage of the people that are seeing it are engaging. It's not quite as precise as that, but it will give us an approximation. Let me just go a little bit bigger over here. So we can go add, and that's a calculated field. So we want that to be engage divided by impressions. Okay, so that's going to give us over here this percentage. So we'll just show that as a percentage. So maybe we want, and we'll filter this bottom one out there. That's just a bit annoying. So we'll just go date. Filter by condition is not empty. All right. So now we can do, what do we want to do here? We want to do number of impressions and then maybe the engagement rate. So let's just change, here we can change the area that this is considering for its data. So now we've got A, B, C, and D. So I'm just going to take that all the way to D. And in here, what I like to do sometimes is have like a combo chart. So that can be like this one, where we'll see the absolute number of a thing. So that might be, for example, the revenue or the number of orders in the case of e-commerce, or it might be the number of downloads in the case of an app install thing. And then I want to have a line that shows the efficiency of that. So that might be the CPA for e-commerce. It could be the CPA, the cost per install, for example, of an app install. Or in this case, it's how engaging was the content that was put out there. So the absolute number of engagements here, you can see 208 versus that's exactly double the highest previous month. But we really care about percentages here, so we want to make sure that doesn't just completely fall off a cliff. Impressions being a bit of a vanity metric, really. So what do we want to do here? We want to plot the impressions and the engagement rate. So let's just do that here. Set up A to, no, we didn't do that, I was waffling on, to D, and then we're going to add the calculated field, which we can then call engagement percentage. How's my spelling today? Engage. Okay. So you can see there it's added it, but it's on the same axis. So this is a very small percentage versus these high numbers. So we want that to be on a different axis. What are we going to do there? We're going to double click and we're going to go to customize series and we're going to go to engagement percentage and put that on the right axis. Cool. So now I think probably want to do, I like to sometimes do something like that. It sort of depends what you're interested in finding out. But that sort of gives us an indication of, okay, so yes, we had a high number of impressions, and the percentage that engaged with that was definitely lower. But you can see here, like, we've got a very high engagement rate, but like virtually no one is seeing it, right? So that sort of doesn't matter as much. Here we've got 13,500 impressions. So that's not quite people, but that is the times that people have seen it. And of those, 1.5% are doing some sort of engagement, so a like, a comment, a share, etc. So that to me seems like okay. So if we can grow this bar while keeping this bar, keeping this line around about that rate, then we're laughing. Now, to do that is then a whole other world of questions about content and reach and so on. That's sort of outside the scope of this. But that shows you how you can pull the data out of LinkedIn, quickly analyze it, make sense of a trend. And this technique will work for just about any data that has a date field attached to it. So I hope that's useful. Let me know in the comments if you've got any questions. Until next time.